What's up everyone, Chad from the Snow Phoenix here. My last playthrough of Pokemon The Great Absol Run was really good fun, so I thought I'd follow that up with a pretty interesting one. Today we're going to find out if I can beat Pokemon Gold with only one Espeon and Umbreon. I loved playing Pokemon Colosseum as a kid and I thought it would be a really cool way to sort of try and recreate that. Obviously we're not snagging people's Pokemon, but anyway. So here's the rules for the challenge. In battle, I can only use Espeon and Umbreon, and Eevee until it evolves. We'll need some HM mules, but they can only be used outside of battle. I'm also not going to be allowed to use items in battle, only held items are allowed. Their stats are pretty good, and the best part is that they're quite different to each other in how they're balanced. One is a more sort of physical, tanky side, and the other one more the special attacking side. So that'll give us some extra benefit in battle. Our level up movesets are pretty shallow, but we do get some decent TMs, although not a massive array of type coverage unfortunately. So to start off with, I use the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Cyndaquil with Espeon. I decided to go with Espeon as it's weak to Bugsy's Scyther, and it's a bit more frailer physically, so hopefully that will be harder for us until we can get our second team member later in the run. As Espeon is the Sun Pokemon, I can see that there's no better name for it than Escanor. Here's our stats. Finally take on our rival for the first time. The battle with Totodile is a bit of a back and forth slog with tackle, but eventually we get the win. Now I don't know if other people were in the same boat here, but as a kid when I was playing these games, I always thought that the 3 question marks was his actual name, so that's what I always told the police officer. But now that I know different and know that he's actually the enemy of our Sun and Moon Pokemon, his name is Eclipse. After making our way to Bellsprout Tower to train up, it's time for the first gym. The Pidgey isn't much of an issue as expected, but his absolute cheese level 9 Pidgeotto is much bulkier. I go for Sand Attack and then it's just a matter of chipping away until we eventually knock it out to claim our first gym badge. How dare he have a Pokemon that he shouldn't have this early in the game? It's ridiculous. Who would do something like that? So next up is Bugsy, and this one is a test. He leads with Metapod, who isn't much of a challenge, but now Scyther comes out, and this is where things get tricky. He uses Fury Cutter, which is a super effective attack that doubles in power with each use, so we are officially on the clock. We get lucky with the confusion, but it isn't enough. We go down before we can deal enough damage. I decided to just try again, but go with a different strategy. We use 4 sand attacks, and dodge a few hits, but still get taken down to only 6 HP. Luckily, he misses a quick attack and we finish it with a confusion. Kakuna is last, but we outspeed and OHKO it to get a very narrow victory to claim our second badge. Time for a rematch with our rival, but this one isn't a challenge. We one-shot the Ghastly and the Zubat with our type advantage, and Croconaw only gets in 1 scratch before we manage to take it out. We make our way to Goldenrod to take on one of the biggest challenges in Gen 2, Whitney and her Miltank. We take out the Clefairy without much resistance and it's time for the Chonky Cow. Our confusion does decent damage and Miltank goes for a rollout, but it hardly hurts us and we finish it off easily. That's badge number 3, and more importantly, we can finally get access to our other team member. Bill is kind enough to give us an Eevee and we name it UA because it's going to turn into the moon.
My first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy.
Now comes the fun part of trying to evolve this Eevee into Umbreon. To make this happen, we need to get Eevee's friendship high enough and then level it up at night. There are a few ways to do this: battling or walking with the Pokemon in your party, giving it boosting stat items, and something very, very handy in Gen 2, in the Goldenrod Underground, there's actually someone that will give it haircuts. So after doing a little of most of them and a lot, I mean a lot of cycling back and forth, UA finally evolves into Umbreon. The only downside here is now we can't learn Bite at level 30 as an Eevee, but we do get Confuse Ray instead, which may come in handy later in the run. Time for the 4th gym. Morty is no trouble at all, a one-shot sweep with Escanor. I do find it funny that Gen 2 got a brand new Ghost-type Pokemon and a Ghost-type gym leader, but he doesn't even use it. Not that it would have saved him though, but still, just doesn't make any sense to me. We take down Eclipse in the tower and challenge the Kimono Girls. It's a good battle of the evolutions, but we come out on top convincingly. I head to Olivine, but before I can challenge the gym leader, I have to surf to an island to get medicine. I figure we may as well challenge Chuck while we're here. Escanor is the real warrior though, OHKOing both his Pokemon. We did get a crit for Poliwrath, but either way the result would still be the same. We now make our way back to Olivine, and after handing over the potion, we can finally challenge Jasmine. This gym is one of our toughest fights to date. We get lucky with some absolute cheese of both Magnemite's Thunder Waves not affecting us, so we take them down without trouble. I think that's something that's more so in Gen 2. The status affliction moves don't always do or aren't always effective, but I'm not too sure. Now Steelix is out. To be fair, I definitely didn't play this as well as I could have, but it's a challenge nonetheless. After doing some decent damage, Escanor goes down and Jasmine heals. Nothing that UA has does much damage, so I have to rely on a combination of chipping away with return and confusion damage. It's a hard slog, but eventually it goes down, giving us our 6th badge. We can take on the 7th gym in Mahogany Town. Escanor took down his entire team with a few Psybeams, only taking minimal damage in the process. It's time for the 8th gym, Dragon Trainer Claire. I lead with Escanor and it ends up being much easier than I thought. We OHKO all 3 Dragonair with Psychic and then Kingdra comes out. I have UA with Feint Attack as a backup, but we never really need it. She tries to stall with some healing, but a few Psychics knock it out for the win. Now that we have all 8 badges, we can take on the Pokemon League. Before we reach the plateau, Eclipse comes along to challenge us one final time. But this fight with him is a lot closer than most. But it still has the same result. Some good teamwork between Escanor and UA gets the job done for us. We've arrived at the Indigo Plateau and 5 trainers stand between us and glory. First up is Will. He starts with Xatu and despite getting in a small hit, a Black Glasses boosted Feint Attack is enough to one-shot. Slowbro is out next and its Amnesia boosted Special Defense holds on with a sliver, but we take it out without too much damage. We finish off Exeggutor but not before we cop a Leech Seed. The second Xatu comes out and we are immediately confused. Unfortunately, we hit ourselves, but on our next turn, we break through and a crit Feint Attack is enough to OHKO it. Jinx comes out and hits us with a lovely kiss, so now we are asleep and seated. I decide to switch to Escanor and we get one headbutt off before being put to sleep. After 5 turns, we wake up to finish it off and claim a very clunky win. Next up is Naruto Ninja wannabe Koga, but with him being a poison trainer, it's a pretty easy sweep for Escanor. Fortress is the only one that we don't actually one-shot, and all it did was set up spikes. A much smoother battle than the first, and that's 2 down. The third opponent is fighting trainer Bruno, so another one Escanor can take the reins on. The fight goes just as smoothly as the last, with Escanor one-shotting his team and only taking a tiny speck of damage from a Mach Punch. Dun dun dun. Another one bites the dust. We now come against a much more challenging opponent in Karen. This one will be more of a team effort as she's got 3 dark types that can do some serious damage to Escanor, so UA will have to carry a bit of a load here. It's a mirror match to start, and with a Confuse Ray and Sand Attack combo, I limit it to Feint Attack. Unfortunately, a bit of misplay from my end causes some extra delay and damage, but we take it down. I switch to Escanor for Vileplume, who gets hit with a Stun Spore. We eventually one-shot it with Psychic though. Murkrow comes out, and after switching back to UA, we end up taking it down with a couple of returns. Now, it's her ace Houndoom. We stay in to try and confuse it, but it breaks through for a crit Flamethrower to knock out UA. It's all over with 2 crunches easily finishing Escanor for a wipe. I think with some better play from me and some better confusion luck, we can get this one done. Attempt number 2 starts similarly to our first, a mirror match with Confusion and Sand Attack strategy. Vileplume doesn't get the Stun Spore off, but goes down just the same. Murkrow is finished off by UA, and now Houndoom is back out. We managed to get off the Confuse Ray and some Sand Attacks, whilst not getting hit by a crit to be able to stall a little longer before being taken out. Now it all comes down to this. Escanor almost takes it out, but a Max Potion causes me some worry here. We survive a crunch and even get a flinch from Headbutt to take this powerful doggo down. Gengar is her final Pokemon, but Psychic is enough to knock it out and get us the win. It's time for Dragon Trainer Lance. This will be quite the challenge though, with no access to any ice moves for some type advantage. Gyarados goes down after only getting off a Rain Dance. Despite paralysis, we managed to take out the first 2 Dragonites with the Confusion, Sand Attack, and damage combination. The downside is, UA is paralysed and in the red. Aerodactyl comes out and easily finishes it off. Now it's up to Escanor, he manages to take it out while tanking a Hyper Beam. The Charizard goes the same way, but it misses its Hyper Beam, so we get to the final Mon of the champion with confidence. We do big damage with Psychic and the AI only goes for a Safeguard, so we finish it off on our next turn to take down Lance. We did it. We've beaten the Elite Four and become Pokemon League champion of the Johto region. But, as I'm sure all of you know, this challenge is not over. It doesn't feel right to leave it here, especially with Red having an Espeon of his own, so I'll quickly run through Kanto and at least attempt to defeat him. We go on an absolute tear in Kanto, taking care of the first 7 gym leaders pretty easily, and make it to the penultimate battle of the run, Blue. He leads Pidgeot and we lead with Escanor, one-shotting it with Psychic. Good start. He sends in Alakazam, so we switch to UA. He sets up Reflect and tries to stall with Recover, but 2 feint attacks finish it off. This Pokemon, I can't quite read its name, but it's the Pokemon that Rhyhorn evolves into is next. We tank an Earthquake pretty well and do some good damage with feint attack, as well as confusing him in the process. He breaks through some sand attacks and takes us down to the yellow, so I switch to Escanor, who takes a big hit from Earthquake before taking out with Psychic. He sends out Gyarados, and with a fair bit of back and forth and some stalling on both parts, we knock it out. Exeggutor is next, and we get lucky with back-to-back headbutt flinches before he full restores. A few more are enough to finish it, while only getting hit with Leech Seed. Now it's time for his Ace Arcanine. We go for Psychic and barely don't one-shot it. Flamethrower does about half of our remaining HP. This is going to go down the wire here. We go for Psychic and he doesn't heal, so we take it out to win our 16th and final badge. It's now time to make our way to the final challenge in this run, the boss battle against Red, at the peak of Mount Silver. This battle is going to be very tough, and I'm not really sure on the best strategy here, aside from maybe some grinding or over-leveling, but let's see how we go. I just decided to give it a go, but don't have the highest of hopes for this attempt. We lead with UA against the Pikachu. Confusion and accuracy drops are probably going to be our best chance. We get hit with a couple of Thunders and need to push through a full restore, but we take it down. One of his biggest threats comes out, Snorlax. So I decide to not only confuse, but to go hard at the accuracy drops. We get extremely lucky with Snorlax hitting itself in confusion. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 times and missing a body slam for an easy but very, very lucky knockout. Venusaur is next, so I go for a Confuse Ray whilst it sets up Sunny Day. Now that it's sunny, it only seems right to bring in the Master of Sunshine, Escanor. The type advantage doesn't hurt either. After it hits itself, a Psychic is enough to finish it off. Red sends out his own Espeon, so it's time to switch back to UA. It manages to get a few Swifts on us to put us in the yellow, but we take it out with a few feint attacks. I'm starting to think we might actually be able to do this. Charizard is next, and UA's heroic run finally comes to an end in a blaze of glory after being finished with a Flamethrower. Escanor, it's all up to you, buddy. We get hit with a Flamethrower for a chunk of damage, but manage to take it out with a couple of Psychics. It all comes down to this. Red's Blastoise. We go for Psychic and do about half as he sets up Rain. If we don't knock it out with the next attack, we're in big, big trouble. We go for it and we finish it off to win us the battle against Red and truly win the run. I can't believe we did that on our first attempt. Underleveled and outnumbered, we did it. We did get very, very lucky with confusion, but we've done it nonetheless. Not since the Jack Jumpers made the Grand Final series has there been a better underdog story. I really enjoyed that run. I love evolutions, and it's been quite a long time since I played a Gen 2 game. In hindsight, I probably could have gone with an Eevee as our starter instead of Espeon to make the early game a bit harder, but I don't think it made a massive difference in the end with how much trouble Bugsy caused us with the Espeon. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there is another challenge that I have done already that's on the channel, which is a solo run of Pokemon Emerald with Absol. If you're interested and haven't checked it out, jump over and have a bit of a squiz through that. But I have got a couple of other challenges in the works, but what do you guys think? Do you like this style of challenge? Do you like a solo? Do you like a mixed team? I am thinking of doing a Nuzlocke as well. Is that something that you would prefer over this sort of style? Any suggestions about types of runs or requests or anything, drop them down in the comments and let me know. I am also considering doing some streams of these runs, so rather than do the recording and just piecing it all together, to do live streams actually playing through the run and then probably chopping it down to a condensed version at the end. What would people be more interested in? An interactive stream setup, watching the whole process, or just this more streamlined version of the run? Again, let me know down in the comments, and yeah, I'll happy to hear some feedback. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. Whether you watch the entire thing every second, you skip through, you jump through to just the end, whatever you did, I still appreciate it nonetheless. Well, until next time, see ya!